So, just first into my introduction, I'm Marian Zeis. I'm an independent developer. Um, did anybody heard the term MCP before? Oh, 2/3. Who actually knows what that is? Less? Yeah. So not really. Okay, perfect. So I can actually give you some insights on that. Let's start with the term MCP and what it actually is. In terms of AI, it's already quite old. It's already about a year ago. A year ago, it was introduced by Anthropic, and it was called like a open standard that lets AI clients connect to other exposed resources or tools. So what it is, like somebody called the term like USB for AI, it actually lets you connect everything you imagine to a AI client. Like I made a little chart here, so it's just samples. So most of it, you probably think, okay, let's connect APIs, but it's not just limited to that. Like especially to local file systems or even local tools or even other remote databases you can connect. So it's really to make the MCP or the LLM client or the AI client makes it possible to connect or speak to anything you can think of. Like most gonna be external APIs, but later on we will see some other samples where it's actually translating for the AI to use local CLIs or tools. So why is it important? Especially if you think about the GPT-5. That was just released, I don't know, I think last month or something. So it's quite recent, but the info is from October 2024. So if you ask an AI right now about something let's just ask about MCP. Usually you should not know about MCP at all because it was introduced over a year ago. And that's the thing. It's really difficult for LLMs right now. And there were different solutions. One is, for example, for GPT-5. If you ask something, he will definitely look on the internet if it's not clear if it's actually the answer. So that's one solution, to look in the open web if it's not the information in the model itself. And if you think about SAP information about that, a lot of it is sparse, it is diverse, located everywhere. Maybe SAP Help is one central location, but in general, it's really hard to find information related to SAP. And if you used it before, it probably hallucinated quite a lot. And plus the context of private content. And again, if you think about SAP, what is behind authorization or for example, if you look at sitMUC with all the nodes and your private APIs, private data in your S4 system, that's all locked behind. So that's what's missing if you ask questions to the AI, like the context of your question. You can't look inside your head and, okay, you're talking probably about transaction MM22 and your system has, maybe you're still using ECC. So the AI doesn't know about that. And so now we try to give context to AI to improve your questions you have or the answers for that. And just a few samples for MCP servers in general. So you can see like there's a official MCP server for GitHub, Jira, Confluence, Chrome DevTools, AWS, and there are a lot of other open source created tools and MCP servers. And I have a list of that, and it's a long list of other open source MCP servers. And if you look at the list, a lot of things are related to development environments. And I think that's why the term MCP is right now everywhere, because you can really simply create an MCP server and you can use it for your own workflow. So a lot of developers, myself included, had a problem, saw that MCP servers solved that problem and created an MCP server. So that will be a problem later on. I'm talking about security also later. But it enables the developer to solve a problem for himself. So what can be done with SAP and AI today? Like you probably heard about Joule for developers. So if you're in the business application studio, you can use Joule for developers. Joule for consultants, there's a product by SAP where you can ask questions about SAP related topics. I will show an example later on. There's something new, Joule Studio by SAP. And in general, SAP pushes a lot of agents or Gen AI related features in all their products. So if you haven't looked at any keynote from SAP recently, like 80% is all around AI. So they push heavily in that direction, but it's mostly limited to their cloud products or at least private cloud products. So what is currently available in the MCP server area for SAP? I'm quite surprised because SAP actually released MCP servers for them for their products. There was like a month ago, CAP UR5 and Fiori Tools, and just this week for the mobile development kit. And those are examples for local development. So they're not really APIs behind that, but they gonna expose your local tools when you work with UR5 related things or Fiori Tools in there. And now they're, especially as I said, it's easy to create an MCP server. It's all open source. So from the community, a lot of people already created one as well, like exposing OData service from a S4 system, exposing OData service from a CAP system as a plugin. Then the docs server and the node server I created, and there's a HANA ADT and SAP GUI server as well. So there are already quite a lot of community-enabled MCP servers you can use already. So I will show as a sample how MCP actually works. I will show you how my MCP docs server works and what it actually exposes, because luckily SAP already exposes a lot of documentation on GitHub. So what I do is clone that information and make that available that you can search through that. Also, community offers the API the same as SAP Help, so it actually can search those resources as well. So let's look at this tool. As I said, that protocol was published by Anthropic, and they also have this testing tool for MCP. So I published my server on that public URL. So afterwards, I'm going to share the slides with all the links, and you can actually use that MCP server for your tools as well, if you like. And I can show a little bit about the steps, how the MCP works. So first, I'm connecting to it. And the first kind of handshake is, so what are you doing? So that's just a simple description. But more importantly is the next step, which also happens every time you call the MCP server in one of those tools, is called list tools. And you can already see them here. And in the request here, so that's one of those standards endpoints is tool list. You can see there's some tools available with the specific description. And in MCP, you can imagine basically it's a documentation for the API. And instead of trying to document every API in the API, MCP is more or less a middleware between those. So the MCP server explains the API, what it does, how you call them, and what the response are going to look like. So for your example, I described how you can call the SAP community search or the SAP help search, and here's the documentation search. So if I, for example, I don't know, wrap annotation value help, so then it searches through all the documentation I have locally available, and you can already see here that's from the UR5 documentation regarding value helps, and that's more or less actually what I already wanted. But there are 30 results, and there's like the snippets in there, there's the complete URL to the resource, and if the LLM is happy with one of the resources, it can fetch the resources and get the complete document from it. So those are the steps for SAP help, for example, as well. It can search something, get the result, and get the result or the complete document in there. So as I said, the most important use case, I think, for MCP right now is the development. So right now I have here a CAP project with a few list reports of your element samples. And I would just want to add a custom section to an object page with a chart. So really generic. I don't know what maybe it doesn't work. So it's a live demo. I just say use the MCP server. So explicitly, sometimes it does not do that. I'm just telling it to do that. So that is working. We're gonna go back in a few minutes when it's ready. And as I said, MCP servers can be used in more or less any LLM client. So most of them are already enabled. So for example, Eclipse can do that too. So unfortunately, GitHub client doesn't really work that well with ADT so far. So maybe Joule is a little bit better, but we have the ability here to actually add MCP servers as well. So I already did that. So I asked, it's really hard to make that bigger, but I can just tell, I asked to add a chart annotation with that as well. So here you can see it actually called the doc server for MCP, and it came back with that here, with the complete annotations for a chart. So I can just insert, probably have to delete that. So insert into that. So there are probably some errors in there we have to fix, but GitHub Copilot looks at the CDS and adds the annotation and uses the MCP doc server to actually get the proper annotation for that. So with Eclipse, I'm not happy at all yet. So it doesn't really work. So maybe Joule is the better possibility to use that. I haven't used that, so I can't really tell about that anything yet. So what is our MCP is doing here? So in the first step, it actually used the Fiori Tools MCP server to check, okay, I have to do something in the Fiori Elements app. And then I check if I can do that with the Fiori Tools MCP server. So you can actually look at the thought process of that. So I can see a list of functionalities. I can see create controller extensions he might need, but I don't see a direct custom section functionality. So he looks at the MCP server. Can it actually help me? And decides, no, cannot do that. And the next step, it searches for the docs server and looks for adding custom section to object page. He found a specific document in the UI5 documentation and then uses that to actually do the steps. And then we can look at the changes he did. So he added a manifest for a new library and added here the body sections and chart sections. So he actually added a new section on the object page and added here the chart section, and maybe have a look if it actually worked. I have no idea. It's always a surprise. It worked yesterday. At least there's no error in there, so maybe it didn't work. But we can see he at least did the right step. So he looked at a documentation. So, okay, I have to create in the manifest a new section and then I have to create a fragment. Next steps would be maybe add a controller extension to manipulate the data here. Yeah, it doesn't work. That's the funny thing about live demos, maybe it doesn't work. So, and again, you can connect it to anything. So also you can add it to, like here's Claude. So, yeah. So, oops. What are annotation for wrap value help? So I connected Claude to the MCP servers as well. And then he does the same thing. Okay, it's apparently something with wrap and value help. So it probably evaluates, is MCP server actually useful for that? Should be quicker. Okay, I have some samples to show how Claude works with that as well. That's a funny thing about live demos. a bit longer. Yeah, thanks for the patience. All right. Then next step is, okay, that actually really helps for the development process. But what about for the consultants? Like how we can improve their process to improve the results from the AI? So I added a MCP server for the SAP nodes to actually get the results from there as well, and CRUD access to CAP or S4 systems. So S4 systems, Wouter Lemaire created a MCP server for that. And for the CAP system, the Gafti company developed a plugin for CAP as well. So both of the systems are already enabled to expose their OData services as MCP. So if you compare that to Joule for consultants, that's what they claim have access to and show. So for example, the ABAP keyword documentation that's in the docs, in my doc server, sub community and sub help is also in my doc server. And here in the red square is also the exclusively SAP nodes. We can already add that as well. So we're quite similar with the sub Joule for consultants. And I had examples. Okay, yeah, I saw this video. Like, okay, let's zoom in. I can actually compare that to my doc server. And he explained, okay, yeah, here is ChatGPT 5, and he's talking about the wrong thing. Like he's asking about which version is in SAP HANA is Joule for available. And he's like, you see here on the left is on-premise version 2023. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's totally wrong. And on the left, on the right side is Joule for consultants with the right answer. I was about to ask who saw that, because it took me longer than I would like to admit to see. He's asking the wrong question here. Like here, that's Joule is missing. So of course he's answering wrong. And then I said, okay, like ask ChatGPT, and it's maybe not that extensive, but it's still kind of right, like more or less. At least he's not saying it's available for on-premise system. So that's a bit of false comparison between that. But let's add even MCP doc server to it, and let's see what it actually come back from there. So I share the slides later on, so you can have a look at this at those as well. And oh, it's working. I don't know why it takes so long. We can come back later if you made it. But for example, here, so here's ChatGPT 5, including the MCP servers. So he's even saying, okay, I go to the SAP help portal, and he's linking to the resources. So basically the same as Joule for consultants does. And then you can even see here, yeah, call tool, node search. He's even searching for the nodes, and going here, he's linking the nodes as well, where you can have a look at those and see what actually comes back. So the same, there's like a thinking version from ChatGPT 5. So you can see here, he called the tools many more times to get more information. And you can see here there's a metrics in there. So, but it's the same information at Joule for consultants. And for example, the same thing with Claude. I did here the same. So he's going to the search, the nodes, and he's even saying here like what the minimum UI5 requirements is. So better or the same, let's say. So yeah, here's the comparison again. And now you're probably saying, okay, but we in our company, we don't really use ChatGPT 5 or Claude. That's a little bit too unsecure. So who do you trust more? Maybe you trust Microsoft more. So let's see what Copilot, you have the ability to create your own agents with Copilot Studio. So I think SAP has something similar to that. But I have exposed S4 server. So Gregor was so nice to made that available for me with his S4 system. Yeah, ABAP developers. So it's not really as S4 system. So I created something, and I have here the Agent Studio, Copilot Studio. So I already connected the tools for it. For example, I connected Excel to it and the other MCP tools. So I just said, okay, export data from all football clubs from the S4 system. And now, because I connected the S4 system and Excel to it, he actually exports all the OData service to an Excel file. So we can actually see, okay, he's thinking about it, okay, what kind of MCP tools or connectors, because Copilot Studio is more like Power Automate. It's not really reliant on just MCP server. You can connect everything like Excel. And then you can see how it works. He's searching for a SAP service called football, and he found one, and then he's looking at the service, okay, what kind of entities are available, and then he's executing the operation, like the read operation for football club types. And then he's going into the Excel file and adding some data here. And then you can go back and, okay, I want to have some sample data in there. And then I just say, okay, create new clubs from real data. So now he already knows the service, knows he can create, update, delete, and then I can combine the information, okay, use some real data from there, and then add it to the system. So again, he's checking what can I use, what kind of MCP service can I use, and then he's generating the same thing. And then I have my, where is it? There's it. So here's my sample Fiori Elements app. And if he's so kind, yeah, he's already doing that. Yeah, again, looking for the schema, and he added execute, create here. So he already created new apps and new inserts, and he created some sample data in there. The same with, you can ask questions from the, So the same with all the others I already showed. You can also put in any information you like, and he can access like nodes, subdocs, all the other MCP servers, and is answering for you that as well. So you can actually use Copilot Studio to combine anything you like, what Microsoft supports, not just the MCP service, but everything. What kind of, like, I think if you go to tools, yeah, if you go to tools, there's a really long list. I don't know if you have used Power Automate before. It's a lot of connectors available. Like I can, so it's quite powerful. So we can look here. He answered that based on information from the doc server and from the his own model. Yeah, whatever. Ah, yeah, genau. I also just quickly new chat. I added. Oh, yeah. Now, okay, thanks. I connected the CUP MCP server to Claude as well. So show me books with stock higher than 10. So hopefully that's a bit quicker than before. It should work. I did it before, so apparently it takes longer. But I said, show me all the books in CUP. And he actually already knows, okay, CUP, I have a CUP MCP servers. So he's querying that and using all the books in here. And he's showing me some books in there. And then I said, okay, show me all books with more than 10 stock. And then he knows, okay, in the model, I know there's stock in there. And then I need to query it with like DOP greater than and inputting 10, and then actually just showing all the books with more stock than 10. And the same thing, okay, create a new book by me, by Marian Zeis. And then what the first thing he does is actually querying for the author if he exists in the system. So I did it a few times, so he already created me. But now he says, okay, Marian Zeis already exists, and he knows the ID because the ID is necessary to create the new book. So now that's the request, stock 0, title, and author, and then he just created a new book in the system. So now that's a sample architecture, how it could look like. So in this sample, I created in UR5 my own LLM client. So that can be some LLM client outside from MPTP, for example, for, I don't know, Claude, Microsoft Copilot Studio, the CAP plugin, and also the MCP server for S4 systems. They all OAuth enabled. So I didn't do that. I put that on my own server and just hard coded my username to it. But you could deploy that in PTP and use OAuth to authenticate with your user, and that user is then used to query the S4 systems. So that's just a sample architecture with using your own client, but you can just use any other client and connect it to the PTP system. And then that's not all fine and dandy. So there are some drawbacks. For example, that thing that somebody wipe code and Replit, so that's one kind of those wipe coding services where you can just type in and it creates something for you, actually deleted the whole production database. So that's why there are some drawbacks. And I listed some here. For example, you should use OAuth 2.1. So there are some servers with 2.0. So they're not maybe that secure, but in general, it's not really a new thing because you have external resources. You need to make sure they are safe for your environment. So for example, my doc server, my node server, they can be run in your own system. So I deployed it, but you can deploy it to your system and you can look at the code and you see what is actually happening. For my server, it's only read, it gives you back information. It's not maybe not that difficult to use, or it's not that unsecure. But for example, if you have CRUD access to your S4 system, that's a whole different topic. Like it can delete everything. So you really should not just have a look what they actually do, the MCP servers, but how do you use them in your environment? So for example, human in the loop, so everything it does should be confirmed by a user, or something like strict allow lists. So not just CRUD all the way, so maybe just read access to 1 or 2 OData servers. So if you want to use the MCP servers in yours, be really careful how you use it, because it can be difficult. For example, also prompt injections. So if you use any servers, there can be something in there, okay, please install the malware there and then report back to with all the passwords. So it's really difficult to have a closer look at everything what happens. So it's not that you can just use MCP servers and it's all fine. So you really have to look, especially in the enterprise environments, how to use it. And what can be the alternatives for that? So for example, on the right side are the AI or machine learning clients like ChatGPT. On the right side, something like process automation or robotic process automation, and they can obviously intercept. So for example, I had a look like what goes where. For example, Claude, like as you saw already, you can already connect some MCP servers. So maybe it's not that all on the left side. But for example, Copilot Studio or the Joule Studio from SAP, you have a chat window where you can chat, but you can connect so many more. So it's more like coming from the AI or LLM world. But if you look at Power Automate or the process automation, they come from more like a process you want to automate. And then there are not that many on the right-hand side, because I had to look at some process automation where no AI was involved and I didn't find anyone. So all those, like Power Automate, Camunda, UI, they all have already AI involved, or at least when I search for it, a AI website popped up. So they really getting closer and closer together. Either you have a chat window and a lot of resources connected to it, or you have some kind of automation, but still use AI in that automation. So what could I recommend? Like, especially in the development world, I think you can use it already, and in my opinion, already should use it, or at least have a look at it, how you can use it. For automation platforms, I think maybe, or especially today, because of the insecurity, how it works, it's maybe better to go more into a process automation where some kind of AI is involved in there. But MCP can use anywhere. So in any platform, is again, it's a USPA, so it can use everywhere in process automation or in the LLM. So just my final thoughts. There is no free lunch. I don't know if you know that saying. AI doesn't solve every problem. I think earlier today I heard like we have AI, but no use cases yet. So don't search for use cases, but have AI in mind if you have a use case. So that is the better way around. And it's, again, not a thing that solves every problem. It's just another tool in your toolbox which can be used. And again, it's more for development process than for business processes. So you really have to lock down what AI can do because it is so powerful. So, and that's also a drawback. So that is my presentation. I have a lot of links in there. And if you like, you can download here and ask questions if you like. Thank you. Yeah, Matthias. Yeah. So it's similar but more generic. So there's another project. Yeah, there's another project, the OData Bridge, I think from a Microsoft employee, and she created something similar to that. But she isn't into the, like, not really into the SAP world. So if you compare that to what Bauder developed, because he developed it specifically for BTP. So you can deploy it to BTP and log in with your SAP account, and then you already logged in with your SAP user as well, and can query the OData service with your user. So, for example, if you have a hard-coded user, as I did, you can do everything I do. So, oh yeah. Like, I think I have a list in there. There's a ADT MCP plugin as well, because if you use ADT, that's just OData calls. So it's quite easy to offer a MCP server for ADT as well. Honestly, I didn't use it. I didn't use the SAP GUI MCP server as well. That sounds interesting. I saw just some screenshots. But yeah, if you have a local tool, API, it can be a MCP server and can be reused in any other way as well. Useful, but dangerous. Yeah. None. I didn't use anything BTP related. So everything is deployed on my own Linux server. So that's what I said. You can just deploy it locally on your own server without using anything BTP related. So that architecture was just a sample to make it easier to log in with your SAP account and everything. So for demo purposes, the MCP service I developed and all the others, you can run them on your own laptop. So there's like, I have a script, npm install, npm build, start, and then you have your local, my local MCP server on your system available, and you can just use it or deploy it on your own server. Yeah. 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 The question is about pricing. Joule for Consultants currently costs €250 a month per user. And obviously it's open source. You can do with that. So that's free. The only thing what costs is the tokens from the own LLM client. So that's the only cost. And I have a subscription for Claude, ChatGPT. I have too many subscriptions. So I just paid for the subscription. So that's from the enterprise perspective. Maybe I actually didn't look what Copilot Studio costs, but you have to pay for their license as well. But it's in your own hand. Like you can use the custom connectors from SAP, from Microsoft, or you can use Joule Studio. I think they support MCP servers as well. So you can use Joule Studio by SAP as well and use their connectors as well. Maybe that's even better integrated. It's currently in beta, so I don't really know what's going on there. So maybe Joule Studio is a better solution if you want to have your own agent and connect it with your own OData servers. But if you don't want to really go to SAP Joule Studio or maybe do your complete own thing, then you can just yeah. That's a good question. Why should I pay SAP? That's a good thing. Like the community API, that's not gonna be private soon. SAP Help API, that can be private soon, of course. But all the documentation, like the search for documentation, that's all available from GitHub. So that's public, that's under open source license. They can't really take that away. Okay, they can, but it's more difficult than locking down sub help or sub nodes. Yeah, it's in their interest to sell products. So, oh, sorry. Mm. You mean SAP offers searching for SAP help? If you want to search sub help from sources, you need to use Joule for Consultants. So that's why their product to search for SAP and related information. That's their product they want to share, and you should use it. So, yeah. Anything else? No? We're just in time anyway. So, thank you.